morning to ya. Oh, nothing like a little chieftains to get us going the day before St. Patrick's Day. Hello, everyone. It's another episode of Door to Door. I'm Virginia. Who's with me?
Chris here. Great to see you all.
Lady.
And joining us today is our very special guest, Mary Beth Thomas, VP of Sales, Deputy Director of Department of Sales. And we're so glad to have you with us today, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Virginia. I can't do the accent.
You can. If you have enough drinks, you can.
Okay, I'll keep trying.
So where are you? Where are you right now?
I just stopped by the Guinness Brewery in Dublin, Ireland for the day, and joining you from they won't let me in. I'm at the front gate, but I dropped by and just to be close to them.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. I'm sure there's an 8x10 of you inside there.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, with a big X through it. Don't come back.
Don't let
you know they have you can drink free there if you go on a tasting, at least 25 years ago. And my friend and I spent like an afternoon we kept switching tables, and like we put our hair up because you were only supposed to have one drink, and we tried to evade the rules and had an excellent day there. So
you think
it's good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining our team. You're an honorary member of the Library Love Fest team, and we love you, and we're so glad that you're here today. So we thought, oh, my phone is ringing, for God's sake, and I've nobody here to answer it. And I hope it's not a bill collector because I don't have any money. What's happened to me? They hung up. Anyway, political call. So we thought what we would do today is Mary Beth oversees the sales team. Who cover the entire country, parts of it. And so what we thought we would do is kick off this, what we're going to try and do this every month, is have a rep from a different part of who represents, our books, to booksellers, librarians, from different parts of the country. And so Mary Beth, being the manager of all of this and all these wonderful people, many of whom you may know, because a lot of the reps have participated in library conferences. They've, when ALA was in Chicago, we've had the rep there, and really great people who have come to speak at various library gatherings. So you'll know a lot of them. But their fearless leader is Mary Beth Thomas, who does many things. And so we thought we'd talk to you a little bit about what you do, how that all works, and then you have such a wide range of reading interests, and I love to talk to you about books. I love to hear the reps talk about books. We all do. When you sit around at sales conference and you hear the reps talk about books, we get so jazzed listening to them. So This is the beginning of something new that we'll do, starting with Mary Beth. So and we'll all chime in because we've got some faves on our list as well. So first, let's raise a glass to ye and to you, librarians, who we love and adore. We're so glad you're with us today. So I don't know if you can see this through the cottage.
It's hard to see because I'm in front of the brewery. They don't want me showing my other non-Guinness beer, but there it goes, right in front of my face.
There you go.
That works. Cheers.
That works. Well, cheers to you all for watching. We hope that you're safe in your various ports in the storm. Stay safe. And let's talk about some books. I have a drink. Toast to you all. My fabulous team. My fabulous coworkers. They're the best. Chris and Lady.
Glug, glug,
And Mary Beth. Glug, glug, glug.
glug, glug, glug. Cheers. Well, I should correct you. I mean, not really correct you, but what? I am Deputy Director of Sales, but I manage the independent bookstore channel primarily. So all my reps call on the bulk of what we do is independent bookstores, which is awesome fun and best job I've ever had. And like you said, an amazing group. Like, I feel like we're starting out like low with me, and then you're going to build to people who talk about books in a way that, I could only dream to. So it's a really great group, and they're very good at what they do. So I think you'll be in some good company.
I'm glad that you clarify that, because I don't want to misspeak, and that's, you tell us what you want us to know about your world, and then we'll get to some of the books.
Well, I think you all know independent bookstores and how they are widely different throughout the country. Small, big, large, small. That doesn't make any sense. But a wide variety with independent tastes, and it's, you know, they know their communities and they do what they do very well. But there's no two are alike, and I think that's what makes it so interesting. You know, a lot of different businesses, looks, and different tastes, you know, so it's never the same thing every day. And it's a great group to call on. And, you know, I just read something today. There was an op-ed in, was it Paul Krugman, equated the coming out of the pandemic and what it's going to look like with what what we thought all print books were going to go away when the ebook came along, and that it didn't happen. And he talked about the flourishing independent bookstore channel, which, you know, it is doing well, and it depends on how you look at it, but it's a struggle. And this pandemic has hit, as we all know, small business really hard. So in a lot of ways, we see some really good things coming out of it, but, you know, it's still a struggle, and we're not out of the woods just yet. So but as a company, HarperCollins is just incredibly supportive and want to keep, you know, doing what they need from us to get to them. And attaching a rep, you know, that's a big thing now, is getting a rep to call on them so they can see what we have to offer, which is one of the things you guys do amazingly well. And we'd love to support wherever we can. And I know, if you know Ian Doherty, I think some of you guys know him from doing some rep picks, and Kate McCune, I think,
Yep.
The brilliant Kate, who speaks to books so eloquently. I mean, they all do. Everyone just brings their own spin to it. Ian is a master of the music, all the books on music. He's very, very well spoken about and passionate about. But large group throughout the field, and we have a telesales group that calls on hundreds of stores. So, and I just try to keep them all, you know, informed and share what they are doing back into the home office. I've been in my home office for a year now, and would love to get out and see some stores in person. So hopefully sometime soon.
Yeah. And who shares your home office with you?
Well, two very special of my family members. Should I try to, are you going to be able to see them with my background?
Maybe.
Let's see. You tell me when you can see. Oh, this one's snoozing. This
Aww.
is Lucy. Lucy. She's wearing her green beads for St. Patrick's Day. Oh, Lucy. That's Lucy. She's very sleepy. And then here's Rufus. Can you see him?
Oh,
Yes.
Beautiful.
Oh my God.
That's my bub.
cute.
That's my bub. He's very soft. He's 13. So
Wow.
he's having trouble moving around, but he's an excellent sleeper. So he's a really good office mate.
Oh, well, they're very beautiful.
Thank you. I love them very much.
Yeah, they love you too. I've seen them in action. They're adorable.
It's only because I feed them Virginia. You know, that's the
Isn't that
the
why
whole
every
thing.
animal loves us? Come on, give me a break. Why I love my bartender.
Right.
Okay, so
Oh,
what?
did you mention that I have my MLS?
Well, I don't remember.
I can't either. It's all that beer you're drinking.
Yeah, it's my half glass of beer, 2:00 in the afternoon. So well, in the write-up that our promotional write-up, we said that Mary Beth not only is, you know, their deputy director of sales, but also is a tried and true voracious reader, real bibliophile, and has her MLS degree. So, do you want to talk about that? I think
Well, you know, when I was a kid, I've spent a lot of time in the library. That was our thing. You know, my mom would bring us to the library, and we could take out, I think you could take out 10 books, and I would take out 10 books. And then you had to, I mean, I got a lot of those cartoon books because you could read them really fast and I could return them in time. And then, you know, any book I could get my hands on and bring home. And so I always thought maybe I could be a librarian or something. And I was an English major in college. And when I graduated, I was grew up in the suburbs of New York, and publishing was in New York City, and I sort of fell into it, but it was always kind of in the back of my mind as something, just being surrounded by books all the time. So I just 10 years ago, less than that, I went back and got my degree, and I focused, it was out of Long Island University, and I took CW Post. I took a lot of the classes at NYU, and which I think a lot of librarians, when I meet them, have that background too. But of course, I have never practiced it, and I have a diploma somewhere, but I'm sure it's not worth the paper it's written on because I have little to no experience. But I loved it, and I really enjoyed. I did a rare books and special collections concentration, which was fascinating. And there's a class called The History of the Book that I took that I just adored. And I love old paper. I love ephemera. So like, I'm a weirdo when it comes to that. But it was really interesting, and I'm glad I did it. And maybe someday, I don't know, I could try to use that degree somehow, but it's probably a ways off.
No, I think that it's great that you have it, and I think that you took it for a reason, and I love that you have your degree. And Mary Beth was trying to find it so that you can take a picture of it and share it.
Seriously, I went up to the attic. I was like, and it was big. It's like hard to miss, but it's flat, and I think it's tucked under something to keep it flat. So I will find it someday, and I will.
Why did you like the rare collection? Like, why was that your concentration?
I mean, I'm trying to think what the impetus was. I think it just sounded really interesting. It was kind of the history that was tied to that. And there's a part of me that I feel like probably could have been a history major as well. When I moved up here where I live in Westchester County, I really wanted to kind of immerse myself in local history, and I joined the Historical Society. And I did a whole thing on ephemera, and just the nature of paper printed for a very ephemeral reason, ticket stubs and all that stuff. And I've always been kind of a weird collector of that, but it's not even that weird because there's a lot of people who do it apparently. But I do like kind of documenting things. Like I keep documenting like scrapbooks of my life that are really, there's photographs, but there's a lot of other things as well, and they have dates on them, and they're like, I was here looking at the chieftains in that concert. I have a ticket stub from every concert I've ever been to, every movie, and I keep them. So
I have mine here.
What do you have? Because they don't do ticket
a
stubs
light
like
bulb,
they used.
and I put my tickets in it, and you can so
Oh
one day maybe I'll break it open and remember what I went to see.
Yeah. Well,
That is so cool.
I was trying to put this book together, and I'm like calling my friends. I'm like, when did we see, Crowded House? And I think it was New Haven, but I can't figure, the date isn't clear on here. And it was really like looking back and kind of figuring out where you were, because we never know where we are at the time. You have to look back on it.
Mary Beth, how big of a kick did you get out of when we were celebrating our 200th anniversary? You went to Columbia University, right? And went to our display. For those of you watching, we had this big display, right. Columbia University celebrating 200 years of Harper Collins and all that kind of,
Yep. I love it. Love that. I'm fascinated with old photographs, which is one of the reasons I'm so fascinated by one of the books I wanted to talk about. One of my great uncles was a Catholic priest. He died in the 50s, but he was an avid photographer, and I have a collection of these 3 scrapbooks that are just they're black and white photos from all his travels. And but the 200th anniversary was just, oh my gosh. I did get to spend some time in the HarperCollins archives as part of my internship when I got my degree. And I found letters typed by, Laura Ingalls Wilder, and her back and forth with her editor. And I mean, good stuff.
I should note our friend Lillian Dabney out in Seattle, great librarian friend of ours. She says having an MLIS gives you clout for everything. So there you go. You have clout for everything.
right. That's good to know. Thank you, Lily. Yeah, so.
Oh, you are muted.
Should I mute?
No, don't ever mute. Don't ever mute. Yeah, Lily and Dabney, there's so much love here, of course, for you, but also for your dogs. So much love. What kind of dog? What kind is Rufus? Amy White wants to know.
Well, I could go on. Rufus, I got when he was 12 pounds. I carried him home underneath my jean jacket. He was an impulse buy. And I would say, if I had to guess, I would say he has some yellow lab and maybe some kind of shepherd in him. But I paid $150 13 years ago to have his DNA tested. And I was so excited. I got the envelope and I opened it up and it comes out and it says 100% beagle. And if you saw Rufus, I don't think he even has any beagle in him. So I was like, this was a ripoff. And I wrote a strongly worded letter to the veterinarian. And turns out we think he is some kind of shepherd, but he does have some beagle in him. I mean, it's bizarre. And then little Lucy has to be beagle and maybe a little corgi mix.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And she can't stop eating. She has a hole she cannot fill. And that's got beagle, written all over her. So, and Rufus
She's
won't
not
eat
alone.
anything. What's that?
She's not alone.
Tell me about it. But yeah, Rufus won't eat anything. So Lucy just stands by his bowl and like stares at him until he like gets distracted and she goes in. It's terrible.
Well, we love our animals for sure.
We do.
Yeah. So, Mary Beth,
Yes.
let's talk about a couple of books that you love.
Okay.
Some books. So we have all the jackets ready. So whenever you want to start talking about them, we will put them up.
Okay.
And Chris and Lainey have put together an Edelweiss catalog for all the books we're going to talk about today. So there is that. And Amy White says, I have a hound, Dachshund, is that how you say it? Dachshund. Mix. We call him our Bavarian sausage instead of hot dog. Love seeing fur baby family members.
I love Dachshunds. I think they have the most beautiful faces. And I don't know their temperament too much, but I just love their look. And who could resist?
Yeah. We had a neighbor up the street who had one of those. And whenever the dog died, they named it Brandy. When that dog would die, they'd get the same exact dog and name that one Brandy. So, Brandy's back? Which one is that? Anyway, okay. All right.
Stick with what you know. Okay, so it's a little intimidating being in front of a group of librarians who read constantly and know their stuff. So I will do my best. But it's sort of a weird collection. I realized after going through some of the books I wanted to talk about, I have two things I love to read about. One is farmers and one is robots. And they're kind of very different, but a lot of my favorite books have those things in common. So I guess the first one, these are kind of in order of when things are going to be on sale. But we're doing the Richard Powers reissues, the author of The Overstory. And he has a new book coming, I think, next spring. And who knew that I didn't know that Morrow had 4 of his titles, his first, I think they're all the first 4 books he published on our backlist. And I read the first book is 3 Farmers on Their Way to a Dance, which I think, and I didn't fact check everything, but I think it was published in the sometime early 80s. And if you guys know this book, this was his debut novel, and it's all about this photograph. The cover of our book is not finalized yet, but it's essentially going to be this photograph. But a friend of mine back in like 1980, well, it was probably late 80s because I was working at BDD, 1986, 7, something like that. He handed this book to me, 3 Farmers on Their Way to a Dance, and said, you have to read it. So I haven't read it since then, but I was obsessed with this book. And this photograph is by August Sander, who was taken, I think, in 1914. And these guys I just read aren't actually farmers, they're ore miners, I believe. And I think this was either in Germany or Austria. But the novel is all about, and I haven't reread it because I'm so scared to go back to a book I loved so much and read it again and not have it hold up. But I can't imagine it doesn't, because It's so amazing. I mean, it was so good. But anyway, it's about the pre-World War I, and it kind of goes back to these guys who I think one of them died in the war. And so it's a modern day story with I believe a journalist or photographer who discovers this photograph and sort of gets obsessed and goes back and forth. And I'm sure I'm not doing justice to the plot, but it's one of those books that I saw we were doing some reissues of these paperbacks, and I saw this title, and I, like, on a change memo, you guys, that, you know, every week we're getting change memos about what's happening. And I gasped because I didn't realize we published that book, and I got so excited. But so that's coming out so it's a reissue, obviously, but it's coming out with a new package. I think it's on sale May 8th. And then the other 3 are following throughout the summer. So it's just, my grandfather was a farmer. My mom grew up on a farm in Ohio, and farming, like, these guys aren't really farmers, but like when I see farmer in something, I'm kind of drawn to it. And I think, yeah, so that's that book, which I can't describe to you. I'm hoping someone maybe who's watching has read it and loved it, but if they haven't, let's all read it. Maybe we should read it.
Oh, we could have a book club.
Yeah.
Librarians, if you're watching, if you want to have a book club, that would be super cool, because I remember talking to you about this, and I was like, I don't know. Tell me why should I?
And you've been here, you've been at Morrow, I mean, at Harper, whatever, forever, not forever, but a long time.
I'm 112.
Yeah, and this book, well, can I just say, this is a little aside, and it's not our book, but Walter Tevis, who wrote The Queen's Gambit, which is hugely popular now, right. He has another book called Mockingbird, which is one of my favorite books of all time. It's about a robot, among other things. And this book is out, I have a copy of it. Can you see it? This is the Live Book Club edition. You can't really see because of my Guinness. Anyway, this book is out of print. And I just, like, all these books that I love so much, kind of, I don't know, sometimes you feel like, what happens? Why do they disappear like that? But right. With all that's going on with the Queen's Gambit, I'm kind of surprised this is still not available. But I am listening to this one on audio right now. Rather than reread, I just wanted to listen to that. So anyway, that's a little segue.
Okay.
What are your feelings on audiobooks, Mary Beth? As a big time reader, have you made the transition? Has that always been something you've been into?
It's not always been something. In fact, I used to not be able to do it at all. Like, I used to try running and just having a book, and I couldn't focus. But what I think with podcasts, as a lot of people said, when podcasts started to really come out and like explode, I listened to a few of those and really enjoyed, especially like Serial and some of those ones, stories told episodically. And it just, I don't know, it kind of regenerated my interest. So I am a proud member of Libro FM, and I will, download books, mostly nonfiction usually. But one of our reps, Kate McCune, told me that Mockingbird, she was shocked that it wasn't available in print, but she said the audio is available. So I grabbed that too. Yeah. But I like, I'm putting together a picnic table, which I did last summer or 2 summers ago. And while I did, I just listened. And I think it's a great way to ingest, a story. So yeah. Cool. Do you listen a lot?
No, although I listened a bit to, why am I blanking? Oh no, nothing to see here.
The answer isn't in the cottage, Virginia.
Actually, but I have my bookcase right behind me. Nothing to see here. The Kevin Wilson, which you can't see. And that audio is it's crazy great. So if you are looking for a good audio, Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson is a great book and a fabulous audio. And you just go on hc.com, you can hear like 5 minutes of it, and I swear to God, you'll be hooked, because it's like, oh man, it's just wonderful. This snippet between the mother and the daughter and how they're not really getting along, the one who ultimately goes and takes care of these 2 kids that go on fire when they're upset, and who doesn't. It's so good, all of it from beginning to end. Okay, what else do you have for us, Ms. Thomas?
Well, and this is one, I think, did you just have Jessica on your thing? The next one I have is Mary Jane. And
Kristen Laney, yeah, they just interviewed her.
Oh my gosh, I loved this book so much. It's our, do the librarians know about lead read and,
Yep,
and
you
all
can
that?
go ahead and tell, I'm sure.
Okay, so lead read is, I'm on the committee, as is Virginia, and all you guys, I think we're all on the committee.
Yeah.
And Mary Jane was our pick for summer, right? Summer 21, because it's on sale in May. And the lead read is one, we have a committee that reads all the available manuscripts that we think could have potential to sort of, build from. And we come up with a short list, and then the whole sales group votes on the one title that we think we could really, with the power of our collective enthusiasm, could really break out in a way that maybe if there's a track, maybe we could go beyond the track, or it's a debut novel that we just want to make sure everyone knows about. And so that was Mary Jane for summer. And it's set in the 70s, 1974, I think, and it's the story of a young girl. I couldn't tell you her name if you ask. I can't think of what her name is. I know it's a young girl. I think she's like 14 in Baltimore and Roland Park, Maryland, a neighborhood of Baltimore. And she's a nanny, like we used to call it mother's helper, sort of. And she spent the summer taking care of this little girl. Anyway, she meets the family, which is wildly different than her own. They're messy and loud, and they get in fights, and her family's very conservative and uptight and pretty repressed. And she hangs out with them that summer, and they also happen to have a rock star and his celeb girlfriend are living with the family for the summer. Because should I go into the details on that? No. And she just experiences this life outside of her own family that is amazing. And there's a lot of music and just a lot of cooking, and she just has the summer of a lifetime. And the 70s, I mean, I think the main character's about the age I was at that time, so you can really identify with some of the cultural things happening, the food they ate, the clothes they wore. It's just really, really well done. So very excited about that.
Couldn't agree more. Love it. Yeah. Love it. And it's just a fun read. It's a great journey. And yeah, I think we all fell in love with it.
Yeah. It's funny that my Joy at the ABA, who I talk to every week, she was like, I just need something, fun. And I'm like, I'm going to send you Mary Jane. Yeah. And she was like, oh my God, you're right. It just, a read that, I mean, there's depth to it, but it's just a fun romp, and you love the characters, all that, all good.
There's a lot of heart in that book.
Yes.
And I love the kid that she takes care of.
Yeah, okay. That's Izzy. What's the name of the main girl? I can't think of it.
I think her name is Mary Jane, isn't it?
I thought you were kidding.
Sorry. See, I told you, I'm terrible at this.
Okay, stop making fun of me for drinking the hooch. It's a book called Mary Jane. Let me think. I can't think of the name of the protagonist. Barbara. All right.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. That's unforgivable. All right.
Oh, stop it. Are you kidding me?
But you got the year right and the neighborhood. So
and the 5-year-old kid whose
and
name
Izzy.
I can never remember. Exactly.
That's the neighborhood that I think Ann Tyler sets a lot of stuff in.
Yes.
And
they go to the same grocery store. The
Eddie's?
The books. Yeah. She said that's what a nod to.
It's
and
it's like a place that,
if it makes you feel any better, Mary Beth. So I wasn't part of the interview. These guys, it was a fabulous interview. I loved watching Chris and Lainey because they're both such fans of both the books. The other book was Will Leach's book, How Lucky, which is a wonderful book. But Jessica Anya Blau said that she kind of named it Mary Jane because there's a lot of pot in the book. Like the family that she goes to watch this kid, they're all like, hey, and everything. Okay. What else you got?
They don't give it to the kid though.
No, they don't give it to the kid.
Clarifying.
But she's smoking a cigarette on the cover, which I think the cover's amazing, but I don't think she actually smokes a cigarette in the book.
I think maybe it's supposed to be Sheba. Let's hope.
I don't know.
Oh, I didn't think
There was a
about
lot of discussion about that cigarette when we were talking about the cover.
Interesting.
I think
Jacket discussions are interesting, aren't they?
they
Very
are.
funny at Harper. I mean, I'm sure at every house it's the same way, but they'll hold up a jacket sketch, like a couple of different options, and it'll be like a red flower with a yellow red background or something crazy, and people half the room will be like, I like the one number one, number two. It's like, oh geez, flip a coin, print it.
Like if you're gonna ask us, you expect 100 different opinions, or
Exactly.
it's rare that we all agree, but when we do, it's nice, I guess.
Now, what do you have? Can you talk about Wanda Morris's book? As long as we're talking lead reads.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's because it kind of is bookended. All Her Little Secrets, which is our pick for fall, correct? And that's our that's a trade paper original, actually, debut mystery. And I think this is the final cover, which I think is really impactful and striking.
Yeah.
But this is a debut novel about a woman, I think she's in her 40s, a Black woman who works for I'm trying to remember the kind of company it is, but she's in the legal department for this company that has a history of problematic dealings with race, and there's constant protests going on outside the company. But basically I don't know how much, I don't want to give away too much, but I think you find out really early on she's having an affair with basically her boss, right? And she shows up at work. I think it's like it's a time she's not supposed to be there, really early in the morning, and she finds him dead and with a gun. So, I mean, honestly, and it's very pacey thriller about what's going on at this company. And there's kind of like this cabal of the people running the place that she finds out something is no good. And then there's also this backstory of her as a child and some really dark stuff that happened to her. And it's kind of all coming together. It's beautifully written. So it's like, I guess I would call it a mystery thriller, but with just a lot of more heft maybe. And I kept thinking of The Firm when I read it, which I know is decades old comparison, but it does have that kind of feel. And I think the tagline, we do compare it, something meets The Firm. I can't remember what the other thing is.
You know what it is, Amy?
I think Get Out meets The
Firm. But there's no like weird, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, like crime, and there's some bad guys, and there's very few good guys, but she's one of them. And she's really relatable too. I think just how she talked about being, I think she's in her 40s, but being, somewhat older, and working in that environment, and just, the clothes she wears and various ways she judges herself, and also being Black, which is a big part of it in this company where there are very few people of color. So it's really good, and we're excited about that. So that's not on sale until November, I think.
Yeah, but boy, you're gonna hear a lot about that book between now and November, because the buzz is building, and we all loved it as soon as we read it. And I love that jacket. I love the reflection on the sunglasses, the glasses, because there's this backstory, to childhood. When it starts out, it's like, oh my God, this kid it's just not good beginnings, and but she's got such great potential, and she's ushered to a better life. It's really, really good. It's really powerful. I'm so glad it's the lead read. It won with authority, I would say. It got a lot of support, so it's nice to see that. Sometimes it's a lot closer than that. So do you guys have anything you want to say about that one before we go on? Because we're just
I love this book so much. And I think I'm glad you brought up the backstory, because I think a lot of the backstory with her growing up as a little kid in a small town in Georgia, it's very cinematic in some ways. Like, it seems so grand, and like, I don't know, you really lose yourself and you feel those emotions, because she really went through it. And then to see her kind of have made it, but also like, what does that mean when you've made it, when you look around and no one looks like you, no one treats you the same. And so like those questions are really great, like tokenism, and even as a woman and as a Black woman there, you know, they are both treated, she's treated on different levels differently from all the men in the room. And that conversation is really interesting too. It's such a good, yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
that's going to be a good book club book too.
Yeah. And I think it's our first, for lead read anyway, I think it's our first trade paper original. I don't know that we picked one before, but maybe. I haven't been doing it a few years.
Yeah, no, that's trust us. It's good. It's really good and worth it. I mean, worth, you know, like if that's the case, that makes sense. That makes sense because it shouldn't be determined by the binding. It should be determined by what's inside, and it is.
And that it's never been, but you know,
yeah,
it's just,
no, it's of note for sure.
Yeah.
What else you got there?
Well, I would like to mention Dust Off the Bones,
yeah.
which is by Paul Haworth, coming out in on sale June 8th. And it is pretty much the straight sequel. I don't really feel like there's a way around it. I mean, you could read it on its own, but it's the follow-up to Only Killers and Thieves, which was also our lead read back in, I think, summer of like 2018. Oh my gosh, he's an amazing writer. And these books, they center around these two brothers in Australia in the late 1800s. This one, I think, goes into early 1900s. They're on a farm in Australia. And I honestly don't know if it's technically the outback, like, because I don't know. It's a very dry landscape where they are in the middle of nowhere in a small town. And the stories, these two brothers, and I'm not going to do a good job explaining this, but something very bad happens right at the beginning, and the two brothers kind of take two different, very different paths about how they're going to deal with it. And they're young. I think in the first book, they're like 14 and 16 or something like that. Dust Off the Bones. So it follows up with their story, and maybe 10 years later, I think it is. And it's just really satisfying because if you read Only Killers and Thieves, you really want to know what happens to these young men. And I mean, it's really, there's a lot of violence in it. There was a lot of very crimes committed against the Indigenous Australian people. And he really spares no description or, you know, there's a lot of harm that was done. I mean, there was a lot of murdering. It was terrible. And he did his research and, you know, it's a novel, but it's based on stuff that, you know, essentially did happen. So this book, it's kind of epic. I mean, I do feel like it's for fans. If you read The Sun by Philip Meyer, it has that, I think, the same kind of readership. Paulette Giles. I mean, it feels like a really good Western with evil and good, you know, and there's a very, very evil character in this one. It just got a really great starred Kirkus review. I think it's running tomorrow maybe. And I mean, I can't say enough good about it. Again, you don't want to give away too much in plot, but I don't know. What am I missing, guys? Have you read it?
I remember reading Only Killers and Thieves and being so struck by how strong the prose was and just how strong the setting was, and the antagonist, evil, great character. Just so I'm really excited about this one as well.
Definitely. I think you'll like it. You'll love it.
This is something you kind of spoke towards, but Amy White asked, do you feel like someone could pick this one up on its own?
I feel like I think you could. I mean, but you're then going to want to go back and read the other one, I think, because they really are. It's the story of these boys to men, and Billy and Tommy, and it was so satisfying having read the first book to see what happens to them. So I do think it can stand alone, but I also want to put both books in people's hands, you know, and that's good. And, you know, it was a lead read. The sales were not huge, but I feel like with this, we could maybe go back to the first one and see if we could do something there.
Yeah, because the first one got such great reviews.
Yeah, the reviews were over the top.
Yeah.
Really strong. So
Okay.
keep at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I should talk about one of these books I haven't actually read.
What is it?
Well, it's the Matt Bell, Appleseed. And I think Chris might have read it, but
Chris is a fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and this is a book. Matt Bell is new to our list. We're super, super excited to have him. I know he's a bookseller favorite. I'm assuming a lot of librarian favorites, but the feedback on this from the reps and from our booksellers so far is just phenomenal. And we got a quote in for an Indie Next nomination from Pete Mock down at McIntyre's Books in Pittsburgh, North Carolina. And he uses the word stunning 4 times. And he gives a description that he talks about what it is, but he calls it the most imaginative novel he's read in years. And he says it's a dystopian retelling of the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, with a timeline that runs from 1705 to 1,000 years into the future, and details the end of the Arcadian ideal and the demise of all life on Earth before its eventual rebirth, because nothing ever truly dies. And then more stunnings. I mean, it's just one that it's on my list. I have the galley over there. But I don't know, Chris, I think you spoke up about it when we were reading for Lead Read. Yeah.
Yeah, it is totally unique. And I think a big book like this is a big ideas book. And it can be hard to do everything well. Like it does have just, again, great writing. The ideas are big and bold and unique. The tech writing, like the sci-fi elements, really strong. It just does all of it so well without seeing, and it does have this ecological, environmental view on everything that's really driving it, but it never feels like cloying or like over the top. It's just like this huge, ambitious, really well done novel. Yeah, I really liked it. And I know this is one you had emailed me. Someone watching was really amazed about the whole jacket input process and what that's like. And this is one, again, how do you encapsulate something like this on a jacket and intrigue potential readers? And so this is something I know the editor was looking for input on. And I think we came to a good place as far as, I'm looking speaking for it's a story. Yeah, really cool. I'm so excited to have this on the list. And that's a great bookseller quote. So Librarians, if you read it, let us know.
Chime in. It's one of those things that we're going into next week talking about winter 22, and I have, I think, 6 manuscripts. People are like, try to read, and it's like, so you kind of get swept up in the next season, and you're like, but I have all these other ones I want to dip into. So as all of us do, have everything, piles and piles everywhere, and bookshelves that we can't, keep track of. But I'll read it eventually, but it's just taking me a while. Plus, when there's so much enthusiasm, you're like, okay, this one we're good on. Where's the book that no one's read yet and I need to read to chime in on? Which kind of takes us to our next book, if you want to keep going, or I could stop.
Yeah, keep going.
So you guys might be familiar, hopefully, with James Rebanks. I've never heard his name said out loud, but I think it's Rebanks. His new book is Pastoral Song, and this is just a plain white galley, because we wanted to get
not final. So
yeah, I think the final jacket's going to have those belty cows on it, which they're black with a big wide ring around the center.
Right.
But he wrote A Shepherd's Life, which we did not publish, but it was a big deal in the UK, as this is, and is about his life as a shepherd. But again, I'm drawn to books about farming, and it's a personal story. Oh, there he is. Personal story of 3 generations of farming in his family in England. But also, I think I'm not going to eat red meat anymore after reading this book, especially cows. But he grew up, and like I said, my grandfather was a farmer, and some of it resonated with that as well. He talked about how hard his grandfather worked to work the land in relatively traditional ways. And when he was surrounded by all this modern machinery and pesticides and fertilizers were coming, and there was a lot of pressure to get bigger and do shortcut everything, and really kind of just, in the end, you're destroying the land. You're not treating it the way that it really needs to be to rest and recover. So he starts off talking about his grandfather and very sweet, you know, just his memories of working the land with him. And then his father, who also struggled really hard and was really combating that modernization versus traditional ways. And then he spends a lot of time talking about what's wrong with the modern food industry. And he's very critical of it. And in the end, he comes back, downsizes to this small farm that, I mean, the economies, the dollars don't work if you're trying to live off what you make on a farm. You know, it's just on a small farm, especially. And, but he talks about coming back to that. And I think he has 4 or 5 kids and they're on the land. And, but the thing about the cows that struck me is when he was with his grandfather, he had this story how after the winter, they would let the cows out of the barn and the cows would like smile and they'd be leaping like it's spring and we're out of the barn. And then he talks about with a lot of the modern, and I'm talking large, you know, the industrialized farms, the cows are inside all the time, you know, and we all know this, like free range versus what's the opposite of free range, but these cows and all other types of animals that have no real kind of life, they're just there to, you know, take from them. And I was like, I think that's it. I think I'm done eating meat. I'm sticking with fish though. But it's a beautifully done story, it's a beautifully done book of prose about real things that he knew personally and then on a bigger level.
That's beautiful. The comments in the chat section here are really wonderful. People are echoing what you're saying. And so, yeah, you know, side note, Beyond Burger is so good. They're not paying me to say it. My wife's vegetarian.
That's right.
That stuff is like, oh, forget it. But Beyond Burger is so good. So I remember the last time I had like a burger. Beyond Burgers are amazing. But
really?
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
Do it. It's easy. It's not, I mean,
yeah, the image of those happy cows, I'm like, oh my God. So, yeah.
Well, a long time ago when we went to Ireland, my father's, I have family over there. And my father's cousin was telling us about how she was in her car and she pulled up alongside this truck that was taking these cows probably to slaughter. And she said, I swear the cow was crying. I was like, stop.
I can't. And you know, that's the thing. Like if we were all forced to kill our own food, none of us, like, I think very few of us would be
outside eating dandelions. Exactly. So everybody just go eat a dandelion, leave the poor cows alone.
Oh, well, you know what? I think I need to skip one to get to, because I have a 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So, but there's a book. Can we go to Fault Lines?
I knew you were going to say that. Yes. Yes.
Oh
please.
my gosh. I love this book so much.
I'm obsessed with this jacket. This might be one of my favorite jackets.
Isn't it beautiful?
It was a great
book.
No.
So this is a debut novel set in Tokyo. And I don't know, this book spoke to me in ways. It's about a young, relatively young mother. She has 2 young children and is married to a man, and they've pretty much grown apart over the years they've been together. And they live in downtown Tokyo. And she's kind of disillusioned with that relationship. And she's kind of pining for something more and ends up having an affair with another man who's a restaurant owner, and she really connects with him. And it's just beautifully written. And one of my favorite things about it is she has a really great sense of humor. She's really insightful, and she has you really like all the characters and you see all their flaws. But she's very kind to all of them, I think, in her writing. But one of my favorite parts was how she shows you Tokyo and the different neighborhoods and the food and the nightlife and just how she gets around and spends time, you know, out in the parks and in different restaurants and various things. And it's just really beautifully done. And so I am a big fan of this. I think we have a beautiful cover. There's a lot of in-house enthusiasm on this one too. And I believe she lives in London. But in the book, as a child, or as a younger person, I think in high school, she spent a lot of time in the US. So she has kind of this Western sensibility that she brings, and she looks at what the expectations are for a Japanese mother, and how she doesn't measure up, and measure up like that. So it's a look into I don't know Tokyo. I've never been to Tokyo, and it made me book my flight. I mean, maybe part of that's because I've been locked in my house for a year, but I definitely would love to go there. She just really made it come alive. So I don't know, anything to add on that, guys?
No, but that's what a lot of people have said, that it was so evocative that people just really felt like they wanted to be there. They felt that they were there and then they wanted to go there. She was really good at capturing that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything to add?
International? Like, it felt very international. I'm glad you said that, because at no point did I think like, oh, I don't understand this. I don't know this place. And sometimes you're like, oh, I don't. But this one, she did a really good job, like making it very universal. And even with the mother, I'm not a mom, but I think even those conversations that she was having, that imposter syndrome, and like the kids are running around like yelling at her and throwing things, and she's like, why is your kid so well behaved and mine is like really mean to me half the time? And so I thought that was really sweet, and she but she loves them so much in it too. And I don't know, it was a very nuanced look at it. Yeah, I agree.
I think so. Yeah,
it's a short read too. It takes not long at all.
You know what? And it was one of those books I was like, oh, I only have 20 pages left. And I savored all of them, because, I mean, let's face it, a lot of times you're like, I got to get this read, chop. And I did not feel that at all with that book. So
that says everything. So now we know you have to go. Lillian Dabney says, could you just tell us the title of the book that you were going to skip? And I think it.
And I could speak to it really quickly. It's Never Saw Me Coming by Vera Kurian. Both of these books, this and Fault Lines, the two we're just talking about, are on sale in the fall. Fault Lines is September 28th, and Never Saw Me Coming, which has an amazing package, is September 7th. And I just finished this last night, and this is another one. Actually, I finished it this morning. I woke up at 5 a.m. and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I'm like, I'll finish it. It is an amazing setup. This, I believe, is also a debut. And it's set on a college campus, John Adams University in DC. And it's a program that they set up for psychopaths. So there's 7 people in the program, and the whole idea is the director of the program thinks if he can work with these people who've been diagnosed with psychopathy, can learn how to fit into society and to maybe not become, their worst possible who they could be, but live in society and be contributing members to society and all that. But what you have is, and nobody really knows who else is in the program, but throughout the book, you find out and they find out. And so you really have 7 unreliable, you can't trust any of them. So, and there's even one guy in the program that you find out early on, he faked to get into the program because it comes with an amazing, a full ride, and he couldn't afford to go to college. So he's and he had the glimmer that he could do, because something happened when he was younger. And he's like, and so he gets in. So you've got him, who you stop trusting him after a while too. So it's a pretty cool setup. I love almost anything set on a college campus. And it's really well done. And the in-house enthusiasm on this is through the roof, really. What everyone keeps saying is, you never saw that coming. You do not, it ends very satisfyingly. So that's that. Have you guys read it?
I have not.
No,
that's
good. That's coming out from Park Row.
Oh, Park Row. So so
that's right.
Yeah,
I want to read it now.
Yeah, you are such a. So this is what I mean. It's so infectious, because your love for these books and why you love them, whether they're farm books or robot books or coming of age books, we love them too, because you have you're so your book talking is so authentic and heartfelt, and that's what comes through. I mean, you should see the comments. People are like, I'm adding this to my list. I'm adding this to my list. And it was so nice to have you on to just, share your love for what you're reading, stuff that's come out, that what's being reissued, stuff that's coming out. Wanda Morris in the fall. I mean, it's really cool stuff. And you can't read everything fast enough, but you don't love. When I say you, I mean all of us. The people who are watching. I mean, we can't love everything, but it comes through the things that you do love. And so that's what's lovely about this, is that we're learning from you, and hopefully I know people are taking notes about the things that you're suggesting and why. I mean, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking.
Well, you're welcome. And 2 backlist titles.
Yeah, do it.
Speak by Louisa Hall.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, that has AI and robots in it, and also Puritans and Alan Turing. So good, beautiful. And then the Dakota Winters, which is Tom Barbash. Oh my God, a year in the life in the Dakota when John Lennon was alive, and a friendship between John Lennon and this young man who. One of the Winters, the Dakota Winters, the family lived in the Dakota building. So good, and they were on my list to talk about. But.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because when we were talking about that as I was at the grocery store. They're playing Air Supply. The Dakota Winters. Oh, I love that book so much, and so many librarians have. And yeah, great. It's stuff. To remember those backlist books, because if you haven't had a chance to check them out, that's a nice shout out.
Yeah. Well, they're both still in print, so.
Oh, for God's sakes, yes, God, of course. Mary Beth Thomas, VP, Deputy Director of Sales, who manages the field and telesales teams that call on the indie bookstores around the country. There, I just read the email. Seriously, thank you so much. I know you have to go to another meeting. Librarian, sit tight for a few more seconds. We have a couple of housekeeping notes to tell you, but Mary Beth, if you have to go at 3:01 and you're already late.
Oh, not late. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Hi, librarians. Hi, librarians.
Thank you, fellow librarians. Happy St. Patty's Day, darling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Librarians, hang out for a second or 3, can you? Oh my God, how great was that? Right? Yeah. Is she not the best? Oh my God.
The best.
It's the way to do it, man. She's all from the heart. It's so great. It's so refreshing. It's just so wonderful to just sit back and listen to her. And I mean, a lot of those books we love too. So it was really cool. So what do we want to do? We definitely want to, one book that I just wanted to very quickly mention. We had David Highfill on, who interviewed the authors, L.R. Dorn, which is a pseudonym for the authors. Let's see, do we have a jacket here for the Anatomy of Desire? It's a book. 1 second. There we go. Or you can pull it up. It's this is a really, really cool story. You just got a huge star review in Publishers Weekly with more to come. This is sort of a twist on Theodore Dreiser's American Tragedy. And it's a true crime docuseries, and it's written in a way that that is told to you from the points of view of all the different characters in the story. The audiobook is going to be amazing because there's a gazillion people who are taking on the different characters in the story, and it's a modern tale of crime and punishment, and it's all about, you know, social media, and it's a modern day twist on a classic. It's so good. And we had them on, L.R. Dorn, and they were just absolutely wonderful. And the raves are in, and they keep coming in, and it's really, really good. So we will repost that on Facebook Live so you can see that interview. And I just wanted to pull up that quote from PW, centered on the world of social media influencers. Dorn's remarkable debut takes the form of a true crime docuseries, The Riveting Trial. Oh my God, so cool. During which Cleo constantly changes her story, comes down to circumstantial evidence. With no witnesses to the murder, readers will breathlessly await the verdict. Dorn, the pen name of husband and wife team Matt Dorff and Suzanne Dunn, is definitely a writer to watch. It's really good. That's The Anatomy of Desire. Now, We want to talk about what's happening with Instagram and Thursday and anything else.
Podcast Library Reads. We have a
Do it.
little clip. So we've been doing some really fun things on the podcast, and I know you guys really like the Library Reads announcement, and we were just so ecstatic from our last announcement, but Willie Lawton made the list along with Sally Thorne, and Mother May I was in the Hall of Fame. So we had a really star-studded podcast episode with all of our authors, and we have a little clip from a reaction from Willie Lawton, which I just enjoy so much. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
Really, I don't know. So, we're continuing to spread the word about your book. I don't know if you know about Library Reads.
Yeah, let's see. Let me try share that lane just so people can hear.
Sorry, guys.
Really.
It's a really great one. I'll tease it some more as Chris pulls it up. We had audio from Sally Thorne. We had audio from Jocelyn Jackson. They were so nice and so sweet. And we got to call Willie and tell him in person. And we have his reaction, which I think is just so winning and will be a lead into Thursday, which we'll talk about in a second.
We're continuing to spread the word about your book. I don't know if you know about Library Reads. That's a list that comes out every month, and librarians across the country, I mean, a bazillion books are published every month, and librarians vote on the ones that they are loving the most. So and the list only reflects 10 titles. Just one thing that we just all wanted to say to you is congratulations.
Congratulations.
Wow, that's pretty huge, guys. And, wow. Hey, thanks, you guys. That's really huge.
Congratulations.
This book feels like it's doing something a little different than the other ones, at least so far. Hopefully that'll continue. Hey, that's great, man. Yeah, you cheered me up on a Monday.
So you can go listen to the full episode. We talked to him some more after that. It's not just that reaction. So go and listen. And anytime we get to talk to Willie, it's a treat. So listen in, hear the audio. Virginia, Marianne O'Hara, who's going to be on Facebook really soon. She just did a podcast episode last week with her editor, and that one was just wow. I don't know if you want to say anything about that one, but
it's a really moving memoir called Little Matches, and it's about losing her daughter, Caitlin, who was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when she was 2 years old and lived into her very early 30s, and then passed away. And this is a book about her life and also how her mother, how Marianne O'Hara deals with this. It's beautiful. It's sad. It's heartfelt. It's motivational. It's prescriptive. It's just, how do you connect with those who are gone? I can't say enough about this book. It's a great list of books in the back of the book that are, I think, really helpful. They're discussed throughout the book, and they're really helpful for people who are suffering and grieving a loss and are trying to find a way to connect to that person, to that soul, to that spirit. And so we'll be talking to Marianne O'Hara on Tuesday, what is it, Lainey?
23rd.
Thank you. And this Thursday, as Lainey mentioned, we will have Willie Lawton on to celebrate this wonderful book, the 6th book, The Night Always Comes. And we will have librarians chiming in, coming on, sharing their love and support for and celebration of this book making the list. Whether it did or it didn't make the list, it is a fabulous, fabulous book, as are all of his others. So we will be just having a Willie Palooza, don't you know? Because we love him so much as a writer and as a person. He is just the loveliest man. And so he may be singing a few songs too. So please come back at 2:00 on Thursday, this Thursday. That's going to be a lot of fun. Is there anything else we're forgetting?
We have an exciting announcement. Kate Quinn. Everyone loves Kate Quinn. All librarians love Kate Quinn. And she's taking over our Instagram this Friday from noon to 5 Eastern time. She's on the Pacific Coast, so about noon to 5. And she's so excited, has some things planned, and we love Kate here at Library Love Fest, but we also love the Rose Code, and she's gonna have some fun things to share with you. So please show your support, come ask her a question, like her photos on Friday the 19th.
She's fantastic. So I think that's it. We hope that wherever you are, you're well. And we thank you for joining us today. And an extra shout out for Mary Beth Thomas, who is just so wonderful and winning in every possible way. She's a book lover's delight and a lovely person to boot. And don't forget about that library degree. Yeah. Now, I think we're going to have a little toast. Wait a minute. Hold it. I pulled up my, if anybody's even watching still, hang on a minute. Hang on. Okay. Is anybody watching? Let's see. Somebody will watch it in the shares. Okay. So let's raise a glass. Let's put on some music, take us out. And remember this. A kind word never broke anyone's mouth. I found a whole site of Irish proverbs. Anyway, listen, Shlanta, we wish you all well. Take us home, Chris. Take us home, chieftains. Be well, librarians. Happy St. Patrick's Day.